You see that? I wait until the last minute and I check the questions that I get sent in early from patrons and channel members, and I go to do one last check right before I turn the camera on and go live. And what do I see but another question, a late question, one of the latest questions that I've ever received. Literally 5:59. I'm about to go live. The show is about to go up, and there's a brand new question. That's what you're dealing with here. See that? That's just that's how much I care. That's how committed I am to delivering what I have promised to my patrons and to my channel members and to everybody else, regardless of whether you're a supporter or not. If I say that you have until when the show starts to get a question in, that's what I mean. I'm just, you know what? I don't. They say self praise is cheap praise. So I just won't. I'll just leave it out there to speak for itself. Anyway, hi everybody. Kirak, it wasn't yours. It was someone who literally posted it like just now. Yours has been there for a while. Anyway, hi everybody. Welcome to the show. As usual, I will be answering those aforementioned patron and member questions that have been submitted ahead of time, in some cases just ahead of time. First thing. So if you are in the live chat and you have something you would like to share with me, a question you want to ask, a super chat you want to drop in with a question or a comment, anything that you want me to respond to in the chat, please, if at all possible, hang on to it until I get through the patron and member questions. And then and only then will I be able to turn my full attention to the live chat for the rest of the stream. So without further ado, let's get started with the first of the patron and member questions. And the first one is from Kier, who says, I'm really happy you've been watching Doctor Who. I live in Wales, where a lot of the show is filmed. I live not far from the beach that Ten and Rose said goodbye. The recent Christmas specials are the first time my daughter has actively sat down and watched a sci-fi fantasy show with me. I still haven't been able to get her interested in Star Trek, but there's still time. No question, just happy you're watching. Well, thank you. I'm enjoying it so far. I know the beach you're talking about. I have gotten that far into the show. That's pretty cool because that seems like a fairly iconic location for the show. So it's neat that you're right nearby where they shot those scenes. And I just finished Matt Smith's first Christmas special. That's where I'm at in the series. So I'm about to when the next episode I watch will be the first episode of Matt Smith's second season on the show, or second series, as you would say over there. I'm really enjoying it so far. I really liked Tennant as number 10, and I am enjoying Smith as number 11 quite a bit so far as well. So it's a really fun show. It's a really fun show, and I'm looking forward to watching more of it. So I'm glad that you enjoy it too. I'm glad you and your daughter get to watch it together. That's really neat. John, Demon Lord of Anarchism, the Sleeper Awakened, Poker of Souls. To conserve, to maintain, preserve, prevent change. One party has spent 50 years fighting desperately to keep things the way they are. The other has spent that time fighting for radical, dangerous, harmful change. Which party is truly conservative and which is simply fascist? It's a good point. I suppose if we go by that strict definition of the word conserve, and we assume that one is a conservative, if they do that kind of conserving, then yeah, the Democrats, at least certainly the mainstream Democratic Party, would be more conservative by that reckoning. And yes, obviously the Republicans are the fascist party, or the aspiring fascist party, the party that's like, God damn, wouldn't it be great to just do fascism? Can't we just do fascism? Yeah, I think that's fair. I have no quarrel with you, Demon Lord of Anarchism. Eric Beyer! I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate all the hard work that went into creating all the extra content you've made, especially around the holidays. The MST3K send up on Thanksgiving Day, the 12 days of Christmas especially come to mind. Do you have any plans for more of the same, especially as we get into the bleak and dreary phase of winter? Thanks again. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. The the Stuffy and Friends Turkey Day video is, I mean, that is an extra video, but that's an extra video that I make every year. So that one was planned a long time in advance, and I made sure to, you know, work ahead enough that I gave myself enough time to do that and to do that video justice, because that's one of my favorite videos that I make every year. I love the Turkey Day videos. They're a lot of work, but there's especially the writing. Uh, but they are so much fun. So I'm glad you appreciated it, and I'm glad people who watch them appreciate them because I love them. But yeah, they are extra videos. The Christmas videos were a last minute thing. I got the idea for both of them. I got the idea to just do a simple video of Stuffy reading um, the night before Christmas, and then to do a video, sort of a companion video to that of Jack McPherson um, explaining the lyrics to the 12 Days of Christmas. I thought Stuffy's video would be nice and sort of heartfelt and sweet and straightforward, and Jack's would be funny, and they would play off of each other very nicely. And but they, like, I didn't decide to do those until I think like that week. I just sort of got the idea, and I was like, I wonder if I can do this. I wonder if I can pull this off. And I did, and I'm happy with how they both turned out. But yeah, those were like, not only were they extra videos, they were last minute extra videos. So thank you for pointing, singling them out for, appreciation. I really appreciate that. I don't have any specific plans. Well, I have plans for, I have plans right now for one more extra video that will go up hopefully at some point this month. And I mentioned it on the live stream with Dana this past Wednesday. And I'll mention it again here because it's relevant to this show, because one of the things that I do every episode of Ask Away is, after I get through the patron questions and before I turn my full attention to the live chat, I play a brand new Stuffy short, like a 1 minute Stuffy short. And then that short goes up as a standalone YouTube short the next day. So what I'm going to do is, sometime in the next month, I'm going to edit together all of the shorts released in 2023, as well as a couple of the ones that came out in 2022 when I started doing it. There's a few stragglers from the end of 2022 when I started doing it that that'll be included in this first volume, and it'll be called the Stuffy and Friends Shorts Omnibus, and it'll be all of the shorts from last year plus the few from 2022 edited together into a single video, and interspersed in between, probably about every 6 shorts, there will be new stuff, like a new little sketch, like a host segment kind of featuring Stuffy and another character. And I'm writing the new stuff now, and I'll shoot the new stuff at some point in the next couple of weeks whenever I get a minute. And then when that video is done, that'll be an extra video that will go up some Friday when I'm not doing this. So I'll do like I used to do back in the day when the Stuffy videos were in regular production. I would premiere the new Stuffy episodes on Friday evenings, usually at 6 when I start doing this live stream. Or I think on weeks when there was going to be a live stream, I would premiere it at 5 instead of at 6. But anyway, it'll be on a Friday. And so maybe I could do it on a Friday when I'm doing an Ask Away. I could do it, and then I could do the live stream right after. I don't know. I'll figure something out. Anyway, that's coming up at some point, hopefully by the end of this month. So that is an extra video I have planned. But beyond that, I don't know. We'll see. David Colby, currently being murdered by a malfunctioning holosuite. Well, really sorry to hear that, but good on you for posting your question. So I got about 3 seasons into DS9, and you know what I did? I fucking stopped. You want to know why, Steve? I couldn't take it anymore. The endless droning, boring background music, the stilted dialogue, the cheap-ass sets, the scripts that are mostly just shaking the camera while people spout meaningless technobabble at each other until the camera stops shaking, the constant fucking L-cars bleeding. They'll just be flying a shuttle in a straight line, point to point, and you have these two actors trying to carry on a scene while pushing every fucking button on the goddamn shuttle while the editors added in bleep, bleep, bloop, deet. Oh, what was that, Ducat? You wanted to talk about how you're so sad that you had to do a fascism? Sorry, I couldn't pay attention over the deet, deet, deet. There were 3 seasons and maybe 4 good episodes for the whole run. Clone Murder, Village of the Holograms, Poverty Time Travel, and Duet. I think I hate Star Trek now. Wow. So this will be 2 things we disagree on now about Star Trek. Actually, I guess technically 3 because you like Lower Decks and I don't like it, and I like Strange New Worlds and you don't like it. So that's 2 disagreements. But we kind of trade places, you know, so I sort of think of it as 1 disagreement, but it's really 2. And then now we have the 3rd one, which is I like Deep Space Nine and you don't. So we need to find some other thing in Star Trek that you do like and I don't like so we can maintain the balance, I think. Yeah. But anyway, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Although, guess what that means, Dana? That means that you've gotten further into our Deep Space Nine watch along on Trek Reluctantly on Wednesdays than David got into his. Anyway, I'm sorry to hear that you weren't enjoying Deep Space Nine, my friend. But if you weren't enjoying it, you did the right thing. And just stop watching it. Because there's other shit to do. You don't have to watch it if you don't like it. So good for you for stopping with the rewatch. But I'm sorry that you didn't enjoy it, because it is the best Star Trek show. Caroline Clark, what would you do with a cabinet filled with calamari? You know, I don't know. I mean, obviously, if I had that much calamari, if I had a whole cabinet full, you know, I'd want to come find some recipes and cook some and, you know, eat some for myself, right? But if I have a cabinet full, that's more than I need. And I would eventually have to freeze it so it wouldn't spoil. And I don't really have that kind of space in my freezer for a cabinet full of calamari. But I've heard actually that calamari has health benefits. And that's, I don't know if this works for calamari, but I know certain kinds of squid you can use to derive antibiotics from. So it seems like there's some really legitimate like health and medicinal benefits. So, and actually, now that I think about it, there's a physician in the area. I think he's just a general practitioner, but he dabbles in the side with sort of, you know, amateur medical research. So I think what I'll do is I'll call him up. I'll call up the doctor about the calamari in the cabinet. Actually, maybe I'll just give him the whole cabinet. I'll just say, come pick up the cabinet. Then it can be your cabinet, doctor who works with calamari. Yeah. Ben Douglas, my favorite headcanon for TNG is that Picard asking Riker to manually reattach the saucer section in the pilot was a huge mistake, and that the separation system was never quite right afterwards. This explains why they almost never separated the saucer, why Geordi was removed from command track after he separated the saucer, and Riker's hostility to Shelby's suggestion of separating the saucer in Best of Both Worlds. Obviously, I'm aware of production and story pacing reasons that they rarely separated the saucer, but it's still fun to imagine. My question for you, what are some of your favorite headcanons, Star Trek or otherwise? I mean, there's one, what was one? I mean, I guess you could say that I don't really think of it as a headcanon, but the bits that I do sometimes in videos where it's Starfleet people having jobs, you know, it's that you almost never see on the show, but that would have to exist, you know, in the reality of the show, like this, like the Starfleet lawyer and the Starfleet janitor, like people that we don't really see on the actual show. But given what else we see about life on these ships, like there would have to be somebody like that doing that kind of work, or wouldn't it be funny if there was that kind of thing? So I guess, I mean, that's as close as I get to headcanoning. I am very much, very, very much a Doyleist and not a Watsonian when it comes to fiction. Like, I don't. I mean, some other people's headcanons are entertaining. I can't think of any right now because I honestly don't spend that much time thinking about it. But like, if somebody were to share one with me and it was really clever or really funny, I could appreciate it and go, "Oh yeah, that's neat," you know. But personally, I don't. It just doesn't hold that much interest for me because I don't feel the need to explain stuff like that. Like, it's a show. Like, that's the explanation. You know what I mean? Like, as you say about the saucer never separating. Yeah, it's because it was a special effect and it was expensive to do. And also, there really just aren't that many opportunities in a story to do it. Like, are you going to stop? It's not just a production issue, it's a writing issue, it's a dramatic issue. You know, are you going to stop the story cold so they can separate the saucer and then just have half the ship do the space battle? Like, that just doesn't make sense. So, of course, they rarely did it because there's not that many stories where that makes sense. And that's the explanation. So I don't feel any need to explain it because it is what it is. So, I mean, I don't really have any other than the ones I've made up for jokes for my videos, as far as headcanoning. I, it's one of the several ways in which I have noticed that my fandom, especially for Star Trek, differs from a lot of other people's. Is that there are certain things that Trekkies, that my fellow Trekkies, spend a lot of time on, that left to my own devices, I would never do. They just does not interest me at all. And shipping is one, and headcanoning is one where I'm just like, I don't care. Like, if that's your thing, if that helps you appreciate it, if that gives you more joy and more entertainment, and, you know, if that's something that you like, then go for it. Don't let me, you know, rain on your parade. I think that's wonderful. But for me personally, I'm just going to watch the show and enjoy the show, or not enjoy the show, as the case may be. I've never been like a huge headcanoner. I've never felt the need, you know, because I know if there are certain inconsistencies, I either don't care or I know why they're there and still don't care. Black Cover 95, who hopes it's okay to repeat questions. No, God damn it. No, that's okay. I don't care. The day after this stream will be the 3rd anniversary of the Capitol insurrection. I think the government should declare an official annual commemoration, kind of like what Britain does every November 5th. It is absolutely essential, however, that we leave no room for misinterpretation of the insurrectionists as heroes or martyrs. That's what happened to Guy Fawkes, and it's not like half the British Parliament is actively trying to cover for him. Our current GOP will do everything they can to pervert the narrative. Did you know Marjorie Taylor Greene is planning a rally with convicted rioters? Outrageous. Therefore, I propose we call this day something like Traitors' Day and have it taught in schools every year that Trump knowingly lost his presidential bid and tried to get his supporters to steal it for him. We can even have effigies of Trump supporters publicly erected for passersby to jeer and throw things at. What do you think? I think it's a good idea. I think Traitors' Day is a good whack at a name. I think that's a perfectly respectable name for it. I would pitch this with reference to Trump's own language that he has used about another group of people in the past. I would propose that we call it Suckers and Losers Day. How about that? Traitors' Day is good, but if you're looking for an alternate title to kind of workshop and figure something out, Suckers and Losers Day, I think, has an appropriate level of irony about it that I think would make a good title for it as well. Thomas Kent, I just recently rewatched the TNG episode called Cause and Effect and noticed that nearly every scene was filmed from multiple angles. How many cameras did they use, and how crowded on the set did it become with them all there? Okay, this is actually a really good question, because it gets into TV production and really film production as well, because the basic setup is pretty much the same with a film or a TV show like Star Trek, and a misconception. So yeah, Cause and Effect is the episode where they relive the same few hours over and over and over again because they're in a time loop, and so we see the same scenes multiple times as they go through the loop over and over again. But every time we see a scene that we have seen before, it's shot in a different way. Like it's shot from different angles, as Thomas says. There was only ever one camera on the set, to my knowledge. It's standard for a TV show, a movie, you know, anything other than like a sitcom, which is filmed on a soundstage in front of a live studio audience. In almost every other case, there's one camera. There's one camera. Occasionally with a movie, if there's enough of a budget and if there's enough of a reason to justify it, you might have two cameras. So if you have a scene between two actors and you want to do shot reverse shot with, you know, like in the movie Heat, Michael Mann's Heat, for the big scene that the whole movie builds up to, the big scene where Al Pacino's character meets Robert De Niro's character at a diner and they're sitting across from each other in a booth and they're playing their scene. And it's a big deal in the movie. And it's also a big deal beyond the movie because it's the first time ever that Pacino and De Niro have actually been in a scene together ever in any movie. Like, so when Michael Mann shot that scene, he used two cameras and he had one on Pacino and he had one on De Niro. So they could just do the scene and give their performances and both their performances would be captured at the same time. But that is the exception rather than the rule. It's not like, I mean, that is done. It's a standard practice, but it is not the standard practice. The rule is you use one camera. You have one camera. And the way that they shot those scenes in Cause and Effect, where the same scene was repeated but with different angles, is they shot it that way over and over and over again. All those scenes in the ready room where, you know, where the actors are gathered around the conference table and they're talking about what just happened and it's the same scene that we've seen before, that's a new scene that they shot. They didn't just do the same scene, you know, once with 5 cameras and 5 different camera angles. They shot it over and over and over again. And, you know, and also it's not the exact same scene every time. It's the same premise. It's the same setup. It's the same point in the day, but every subsequent scene is a little different, you know? So it's not like you can't go back and watch the first time that, you know, Captain Picard, or the first time that Beverly breaks the glass in her quarters and then watch the second time that Beverly breaks the glass in her quarters. It's not the exact same scene. The same basic things happen. It's the same occurrence. It's similar enough so that Beverly starts to think, oh, wow, I'm reliving the same day, right? Or the poker game where they do the same thing over and over again. It's a different scene every time. It's a different take. And it's even written differently, you know, so that because the characters start to catch on to what's happening. But yeah, they didn't fill the set with a bunch of different cameras and shoot everything from multiple angles at once. There's one camera and they did it multiple times. And that also means that, you know, every time, even within a more standard episode where it's not a time loop story, where the story just moves from point A to point B to point C, etc., in a more linear fashion, every time you cut to another shot in a scene, that's a different camera setup. When there's a shot of Captain Picard in his captain's chair, staring at the view screen and seeing what the crisis is, and then we cut to Riker sitting next to him, that's a different shot. They got everything they needed from that angle for Patrick Stewart, and then they did a new camera setup and, you know, possibly a different lighting setup, although on the bridge set they probably didn't have to change the lights all that much. And then they got Riker stuff. Like, that's the way it's done. One camera, one shot at a time, one setup at a time. It can be a very time-consuming, very laborious process. But that's the way it's done. One camera. Brian the Board Baker. Steve, Happy New Year. I loved the live members meeting on Sunday and found the discussion about storytelling and foreshadowing very entertaining and informative. I was wondering if you have ever seen a television show called Burn Notice. If you have, please tell me what you thought of the production. Looking forward to another year of your work, especially with the national elections coming up. Thanks. I have heard of Burn Notice, but I have never watched it. So I don't have any thoughts on it. I can't have an opinion on it because I haven't seen it. Um, but I mean, I don't know. It looks like it might be a fun show to watch if you're just looking for something to watch to kind of chill out and not think too hard, you know. Um, but I've never seen it, so I can't say what I think of it. But thank you so much for your question, and thanks for being a supporter. And I'm looking forward to another year of my work too. um, General Contact Unit Problem Child. I have seen many reactions to James Somerton's bullshit apology. Pretty much all of them involve people telling him there's no way he can go back to making videos. They tend to focus on the fact that he's, one, proven himself untrustworthy, and two, he's shown he will abuse the power that comes with notoriety and having fans he can influence. I agree with both of these moral arguments, but I think there's another practical issue that I've not seen brought up anywhere. If basically everything he's ever said in videos was plagiarized, we have no reason to think he's actually good at making videos on his own, and thus have no reason to want to see what he does in the future, morbid curiosity aside. Like, suppose you're a publisher and you find out the author of a book you published accidentally actually ripped off the whole thing. Even if you didn't give a fuck about the morality, would it not be a bad business decision to work with that author again, since you now have no reason to think they can actually write? Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really good point. It seems obvious from, I mean, look, I never watched Somerton's content. I had honestly never even heard of him until I watched H Bomber Guy's video. So I was, but just based on not even just the evidence of plagiarism in the video, that alone is enough to support what you're saying. But just the clips of the videos that were shown in H Bomber Guy's video, he seems like Somerton. He seems like the kind of guy who made videos because he just wanted to churn out content. He wanted to churn out content and get paid, and the work itself didn't really mean anything to him. And yeah, if that's the kind of person you are, if that's the kind of work you're doing, you're just cranking out garbage, to meet a schedule, to feed an algorithm, then chances are very good that nothing you have to say will be of any interest to anyone. I mean, if he really cared about making videos, if he really cared about these video essays, if he really had a point of view and an opinion and a knack and a voice and a style and a wit and a whatever else you need to do this and be good at it, he wouldn't have, not only would he not have done what he did and plagiarized so extensively, but I feel like his work just in general would have been better. And it doesn't seem like it was. It seems like he identified a niche audience, the queer community, and a desire that people in that audience had for content about queer cinema and LGBTQ themes on, TV and movies and literature and stuff like that. And he said, okay, I'm going to serve that audience. And he just started, grinding out content because that was the point to him, not saying anything, not doing any analysis, not doing any critiquing, not sharing his thoughts and feelings on things, not communicating anything from his own mind and his own heart, not sharing his point of view. Does he even have a point of view? I don't know. We certainly don't know from his videos, because the points of view that were shared in his videos, far more often than not, it seems, were other people's points of view and not his. So yeah, no, that is it's not just that he can't be trusted. You're absolutely right. Why would anybody give a shit what he thinks about a given subject? He's already proven what he was there for, what his goal was. It wasn't to do anything meaningful or personal. or helpful or insightful or anything that would add anything to anyone's conversation or anyone's understanding. It was just to start cranking shit out so we could get paid. So fuck that. Agent Meister, the chronicler of an age yet to come. Peldor Joy Stephen, Happy New Year. If you could star alongside the Muppets, a la Michael Caine in A Muppets Christmas Carol, in any Star Trek episode or movie from across the franchise, what would the episode and movie be? I think Star Trek 4 would be the obvious contender. I really enjoyed your video on that, by the way. But it would be interesting to see how something like TNG's Genesis or DS9's Empok Nor would lend themselves to this approach. Or what about Miss Piggy as the Borg Queen? Quick, get me Kurtzman! I hope you had a nice Christmas. I know I certainly did. So much so, I think I'll be squeezing the cholesterol out of my veins till Valentine's Day. Well, I'm glad you had a good holiday, my friend. I did too. Thank you for asking. Thank you for your good wishes. If I could star in a Muppets version of a Star Trek episode, and I would be the only human character, I don't know. Amok Time would be good, and Kermit could be Kirk, and Fozzie could be Spock, and I could be McCoy. Or maybe Fozzie would be Kirk and Kermit would be Spock. Because I know there are other Muppets that would be more suited to the Spock role, but Spock and Kirk are the leads. So Kermit and Fozzie. And Kermit and Fozzie have the friendship, which, would parallel the Kirk and Spock friendship. So that, it would have to be some combination of Fozzie and Kermit. But I don't know. I don't think Miss Piggy would be all right as a Borg Queen. But I think if you want to do Miss Piggy as like a villainous character, then do well, I can't remember the title of it, but the Ardra episode of TNG where Ardra is like the devil and she comes she comes back to this planet after 1,000 years and they think she's the real Ardra, and Picard thinks that she's just a con artist. Kermit could be Picard and Ardra could be Miss Piggy. That could be fun. And then in that one, and of course in any TNG episode with the Muppets, I would be Riker. I would always be Riker, and the Muppets would fill in whatever roles they needed for that episode, but I would always be Riker. The Thinking Cat. With all the talk of civil war in America, how possible is that? As I was watching Brian Tyler's year review, and it was quite shocking hearing on a liberal channel something that terrible becoming mainstream, as it used to be limited to Tim Pool or Alex Jones. Have you and your neighbors considered creating a militia? And if there was conflict, do you think it would be a rogue collection of states or an attempted coup? I'm kind of concerned for you, Steve. And if I was going to recommend arming, maybe get an SA-80, but only for defense, as it can hit targets from afar. And it's why it was the British Army standard for so long. I'd also store supplies and medical kits, and maybe something like a Jim Baker buckets, which I know they're probably a better camping alternative, but might be an idea to just scan what you'll need if the gas and electricity is off for a prolonged time. Woo! I don't think there's going to be a civil war. If there was going to be a civil war, I would not want to form a militia with my neighbors because given the area of the state in which I live, most of my neighbors would probably be on the opposite side of the civil war from the side I would want to be on. So that would be a non-starter. And I'm not buying a gun. So thank you for your concern. Thank you for the suggestion. I'm not buying a gun. As for survival supplies and stuff, no, I'm not doing any of that. I'm not doing any of that. I see no urgent need for that. I see no realistic possibility that is going to happen in any near time frame. I think that's alarmism. But who knows? Maybe I'll end up like all the neighbors in the Shelter episode of The Twilight Zone, where I'll be one of the neighbors trying to talk my way into the fallout shelter of the one guy on the block who actually built one. We'll see, but no, at the moment I have no plans to do any of that. Air One Fire, whose energetic fist should be ready to resist a dictatorial word. I think all of the Gilbert and Sullivan I know is either from Star Trek Insurrection or that one episode of The Simpsons. The Cape Fear episode with Sideshow Bob. Anyway, imagine my glee when I was rewatching Raiders of the Lost Ark for late seating and found that Sala sings this song. Oh, I forgot about that. So I guess some of my Gilbert and Sullivan knowledge comes from Raiders as well. I totally forgot. Anyway, hi, Steve. What do you think of my Star Trek series concepts, which may or may not ever be produced? 1. A starship crashes on a remote planet. Communication is impossible for reasons, and the survivors have to survive in the middle of various diverse groups that live there. 2. A special Starfleet intelligence unit is tasked with investigating various unexplained phenomena, possessions, abductions, conspiracies. Think Skin of Evil, Conspiracy, The Neutral Zone, as to what the ambiance might be. 3. A majority of the Romulans wants to free the Riemann slaves, and about half their colonies split off, secede, so to speak, and start a war, a civil war, you might say. This show might actually finally show Romulans as actual people. Also, I'm in the middle of Voyager Season 2. Does it ever get any better? I mean, for me, I think Season 2 might be the best season, to be completely honest. I mean, when 7 of 9 shows up, she at least eventually becomes a pretty interesting character, and the Doctor evolves into, at least for Voyager, a fairly interesting character. But no, the quality of the show overall never improves as far as I'm concerned. As for your pitches, I like the first 2. I would not be interested in the third one because I don't give a shit about the aliens, and I especially don't give a shit about the Romulans. If you're into Romulans and you think the Romulans need to be shown as actual people, great. I don't give a shit. I'm not interested. But especially your number 2, your sort of Star Trek X-Files pitch is intriguing to me. The first one is intriguing too. I like them because they would all, even the Romulan one, which again I don't give a shit about. But even that one, like it's different. It's Star Trek in a different way. It's not just let's do another show about a ship going on a mission. You know what I mean? Like it's a different. It's an opportunity to do a different kind of show under the same umbrella, which I think is an intriguing thing and something that Star Trek should do. Like there should be a show like that is under the Star Trek umbrella, but is not just, another Star Trek show, is kind of like what Deep Space Nine was, even though David Colby hates it now. Something that is a spin, that is a twist, that is not just a minor variation on the theme, but taking things in a different direction, looking at things from a different angle, telling different kinds of stories with different kinds of characters, doing what Star Trek does as in terms of social commentary and political messaging and things like that, but in a different way than it's done it before. So yeah, I think all 3 of them are interesting for that reason, but the first 2 are certainly more interesting to me than the third one for reasons I already specified. And of the 2, I think the number 2 seems the most interesting to me because, like I said, to me that reads as the X-Files mapped onto Star Trek, and that could be an interesting combination. M.W. Ridra. I debated all week whether or not I wanted to even broach this subject. It's an important issue to me, but also I don't want you to feel like I'm calling you out. So please understand, I mean this as politely as possible. I was surprised to see you use AI art, or more accurately, algorithmically derived art, in your recent video about the 12 Days of Christmas. I was a bit confused because I know you stand with writers and actors in the entertainment industry against studios that want to replace them as much as possible with AI. I guess I'm asking genuinely how you feel that using AI art generators differs from studios replacing talent with AI. I do not have enough characters to properly articulate an argument on the subject, but the gist is I know that Midjourney, DALL-E, and Stable Diffusion all work by stealing art. I recommend Thought Slime's 15-minute video, Some Thoughts on AI Art. His take is pretty close to mine, but he delivers it in a way that isn't boring. The short version is I agree with you. And if I had the resources that a movie studio has, I would never dream of using AI art for any reason. Just like I would never dream of replacing actual actors or writers with AI productions or creations or whatever. But and honestly, if I, because people say, well, just commission art from actual artists, which I agree is the far more desirable option. But I almost never have the time for that, and I almost never have the money for that. Like if I had the time and the money if I had the money to pay an artist to create whatever artwork I needed for a given video, and I had the time to give that artist the time they needed to do it, then of course I would do that. But the situation with that 12 Days of Christmas video in specific was, like I said, earlier, I got the idea to do it like a week before. And the only way I could have done it was either to find stock images that were suitable for the illustrations, which I couldn't, or to do something with an AI generator. And that's what I chose to do. I used Dream Studio, which I think runs off of Stable Diffusion. And I got what I needed. And I'm not going to sit here and defend it on a moral basis, because like I said, I agree with you. I think it is far, far, far preferable to actually hire a human artist if you need, graphics done for a video that you can't do yourself, or you don't want to do yourself, or whatever. Like, I obviously, if at all possible, engage an artist to do it and pay them. I didn't have that option. My option was either to not to do what I did with the AI art, or to not make the video. And that was a compromise I was willing to make. And I'm not going to defend it on a moral ground or an ethical ground, but I'm just going to say I can live with it. It's not something that I want to make a habit of. It's not something that I want to do any more than I feel like I have to. And if I ever get to the point with my channel where my videos are consistently getting, 6-figure views, and I'm making more money than I'm making now, and I have a little bit more of a cushion in terms of my the amount of views my videos get, and the amount of revenue my videos earn, and the amount of money I have in the bank to pay my bills and keep a roof over my head and all that, and I can afford to do some projects that require some longer term preparation, which I would love to do, by the way. If I ever feel like I'm in a situation where I can do that, I would love to do a project like that, where instead of trying to do a video in a week, I could take several weeks or several months and work on it and get it just how I want it, and really take my time with it. And if necessary to achieve the effect I want, hire some artists to help me out with graphics. I would love to do that. I would love to be in a position where I feel like I can do that without putting my own, financial well-being in jeopardy. But at the moment I can't. So I do what I can do. And yeah, there is an ethical compromise there, and I'm not thrilled about it, and I'm not going to defend it, but it is what it is, But I do appreciate the question, because I did acknowledge the use of the AI artwork in the 12 Days of Christmas video. And I did write Jack to have a joke with it, which honestly, I felt like I couldn't not acknowledge that it was AI art, because especially the bit at the point in the video where Jack says, at this point, the AI illustrations start to get pretty weird, and just don't look at their faces or their feet, right? Because that's when the weird bits happen. You look at the faces of, like, what was it, the 10 Lords of Leaping, and you're like, what is going on there? It sort of mimics like art from an old storybook. Like, that's the aesthetic I wanted, but the faces, so I felt like, okay, I have to have Jack say something about this, and it's obvious that it's AI derived art. So Jack made a point of pointing it out. But yeah, that's what was going on there. It's just a matter of making the best of the resources and the time that I have available to do this. And if I get to a point where I don't need to do that anymore, then I won't do that anymore, because as a rule, I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's much better to, if you, you know, if you can afford to pay an artist to do something, then that's what you should do. If you can afford to pay an artist to do something for you that you need, then that's what you should do. Isaiah Taylor, hey Steve, as a species and a universe, where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Paul Gauguin. Good painting, by the way. Very good painting. That's the title of the painting for anybody who's curious. There's a famous Gauguin painting called "Where Do We Come From? What Are We? Where Are We Going?" And it's a depiction. It's just sort of like a group of figures kind of standing in like an outdoor setting, and it kind of shows the different phases of life. There are adults, there are children, there are old people, and you sort of see all the different phases of human life. And that's why I assume, I'm not an expert on the painting, I'm not a scholar on Gauguin, but I assume that's why he called it that. Where do we come from? What are we? And where are we going? To suggest, whoa, almost spilled my coffee, to suggest the different stages of life and the different stages of existence. Where do we come from? The Big Bang, whatever that was. What are we? Human beings, whatever they are. Where are we going? Heat death of the universe, maybe. Big Rip, maybe. Maybe everything will shrink back together. Big Crunch, maybe. Another Big Bang after that, maybe. I don't know. I have no idea. But they are all excellent questions. And it is an excellent painting as well. Joe McClory. So I heard this joke that has been kind of stuck in my head as story conversation prompt. What all media will be like the moment American democracy drops all the pretense and elects a corporation as president. It was a joke about a soulless cash-in game, but there is something about that prompt that is really interesting to me. Just so many good ideas in it. A Handmaid's Tale style drama, imagining how it might be. A tongue-in-cheek satire about how close to our current reality is to that situation, how it might be different for different corporations. If given that writing prompt, where would you take it? Which corporation would you have be president? Well, I mean, I think the most I would do a satire. I think it would be it's the concept is inherently ridiculous enough that I think it lends itself to satire. And when I say it's ridiculous, that's not to say that I don't think it would ever happen, although I do think it's far enough on the far edge of possibility that I feel relatively safe. We're not going to have to worry about an actual corporation being elected president anytime soon. But I don't want to say, oh, that'll never, ever, ever happen, because you know what? Who the fuck knows, right? But I would write it as like a dark comedy, like a really biting, scathing, cynical social satire, making fun of our present situation. And the corporation would be probably like a fictionalized version of Twitter, and the figurehead of it would be a fictionalized version of Elon Musk, or perhaps a conglomeration of our various, most prominent billionaires in the United States. There'd be a little bit of Musk, there'd be a little bit of Zuckerberg, there'd be a little bit of our old friend Jeff Bezos, who was never a social media guy, but still, we throw him in there too. It'll be something like that. And of course, the CEO of the corporation would not actually be the president. The corporation would be the president, and I'm sure there's some fun to be had and some points to be made by poking at that distinction, But yeah, I think a really, really like just absolute, midnight black satire would be the way to go with that. Carrie Hughes, hiya, Steve. With the absolute disaster that the Marvel films were last year, do you think that they can come back from this, or is Hollywood destined to crash and burn? Would be delighted to hear your thoughts on this, as I haven't watched a Marvel film since Endgame. Hope you're keeping well anyway. Well, thank you. I'm keeping very well, and I hope you are too. Yeah, I don't know how Marvel films are going to do this year, but can they come back from it? Yes, of course. I mean, the reason why people started to get sick of it, the reason why people are saying, "Oh, that's it. The superhero bubble has burst in the movies. Marvel, the MCU is it's in its last days." Is because I think Marvel forgot what made those movies popular in the first place. And what made those movies popular in the first place was that the shared universe was a feature, was not the entire point, right? People liked Iron Man because Iron Man was a good movie. People liked Captain America, the First Avenger, because that was a good movie. People liked the Avengers movies because they are good movies. They're fun popcorn movies. And yes, they're episodes in a larger tale. And yes, they pay off things that are set up in multiple movies, and they set up things that will be paid off in the future. Like they do all of the world building. Oh God, I hate that word, but the world building, that is necessary for the larger franchise. But first and foremost, they are stories about characters, and they are entertaining characters and entertaining stories in their own right. That's the most important thing. And that's where you have to start. And you need to find space for the other stuff behind the story. The story has to come first. And when they forget that, either in the making of the films themselves or in the marketing of the films, which I think is more of a problem than the actual films themselves, because I still haven't really, other than the Eternals and maybe a couple of the Disney Plus shows that didn't, light my world on fire, but even most of the Disney Plus shows have at least been fine. Like they haven't been terrible, haven't been like, oh Jesus, why'd I watch that? They've mostly been they've been fine, and some of them have been actually very, very good. The only one that I would say that I didn't really like was Secret War, the Nick Fury one. I just thought, what was the point of that? Why did I watch that? And that was very much like, tied in with the larger MCU and what's next and setting things up for the movies. And it's like, I don't give a shit about any of this because the story that I'm being told right now doesn't interest me. It doesn't seem important. But overall, the movies that I've seen more recently from the MCU have still been pretty good. And like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was excellent, I thought. Now, granted, the Guardians movies were always sort of off in their own corner, but they're a part of the larger canvas. I thought the last Guardians movie was fantastic. I haven't seen the Marvels yet. I'll see it whenever it comes out on streaming. I can't imagine it's that bad. It may not be, fantastic, but I can't imagine it's terrible. So I think it's just, it's the studio has forgotten that their number one job should be to make good movies. And if those movies all happen to take place in the same cinematic universe, and every few years, characters from a bunch of those films come together for a big crossover movie, that's great. But first and foremost, you have to make those movies good, like in their own right. And they shouldn't be just there to serve the larger narrative. They should be there to tell their stories. And their stories need to be interesting and compelling to people. And so yes, if they ever remember that and they get back to that, then yes, of course they can turn it around. I don't think they're destined to crash and burn. They may crash and burn, but I don't think it's inevitable. John Burns. So the list came out of those who flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. The guy who committed suicide in jail. Anyway, Aaron Rodgers sent some shade Jimmy Kimmel's way on the Pat McAfee show, a sports program. And Jimmy responded by threatening legal action. I wouldn't be asking any of this, but on YouTube, Adam Carolla defended Jimmy, saying he's traveled many times with Jimmy and he's never gotten a sense that Jimmy would engage in that behavior. I'm sure now that everyone's talking about Bill Clinton getting frequent flyer miles on Jeffrey's plane, just thought I'd mention this comment by Adam. Adam and Jimmy hosted The Man Show in the 90s together. Well, okay. I mean, look, I don't know Jimmy Kimmel. I've never met him. I don't know his history. If he had any, I mean, he says the Epstein thing is completely made up and he never flew on Epstein's plane and never had anything to do with any of that. I have no fucking idea. And the fact that Adam Carolla says he didn't, that doesn't mean anything to me. How many serial killers have there been where their friends say, oh, I never thought it would be him, Like that doesn't, because your friend says, oh, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would do that. That means nothing. Now, I'm not saying that I think Jimmy Kimmel did anything. I'm perfect until I see evidence to the contrary. I'm perfectly willing to presume his innocence and say, hey, if there's no evidence that he had anything to do with Epstein, and if he says he didn't have anything to do with Epstein, then he didn't have anything to do with Epstein until I see evidence showing me otherwise. But Adam Carolla saying, like, I don't think he would do that, that means nothing. That means nothing. That's the same kind of defense that rapists get. When somebody is accused of rape and their friends or their family say, oh, he would never do that. Oh, I never saw any indication that he ever, I never saw him treat anybody bad. I never saw him force himself on any younger people. Look, I know he, okay, so maybe he liked young girls, but I mean, they were always over 18 whenever I was around, like that kind of thing. That means nothing. That means nothing. Oh, he's probably innocent then. No, that means nothing. But as far as I know, there is no actual evidence to date, linking Jimmy Kimmel to Jeffrey Epstein's plane, which is why he's threatening to sue the pants off Aaron Rodgers and Pat McAfee for saying that shit. And I don't really blame him. The exacerbated some random geek. First of all, folks who can please give money to Phoenix and Joey. Phoenix is trying to still have internet after Tuesday. So everybody, please make use of, I'm sure there will be links in the live chat if there aren't already, and also in charitylinks.page as well, which is linked in the description. So please, if you can help out Phoenix and Joey, consider doing that. Moving on. Steve, I started multiple streaming now, my Twitch streams and also broadcast to YouTube. And one of my YouTube subscribers who doesn't have a Twitch account watched my stream on Sunday and had a conversation with me. And yeah, I got heated as we talked politics, but then they said the worst thing at the end. You're a liberal in my mind. I'm a liberal? I am a liberal? How am I a liberal? I'm a fucking anarchist. If it weren't for fascism, conservatism, reactionaryism, and Stalinism, liberalism would be the political ideology I hate the most. So 1, 2, 3, it makes the top 5. Liberalism is pro-capitalism and the state, and capitalism requires poverty to function. And my friends Joanna, Joey, Phoenix, Naz, and LQ are all suffering because they are in poverty. Liberalism is pro-poverty or accepts it as a thing. Why would I want to be that? How am I a liberal? Well, I mean, here's what you need to accept. And I know this is very difficult for a lot of people, especially on the left, and especially on the left who identify with ideologies that are not broadly understood in the mainstream, is that not everybody knows what the fuck an anarchist is. Or if they do know, they know, oh, like that guy who assassinated the Archduke and started World War I. Like they know about anarchists from the worst examples from history, about the ones who, assassinated heads of state and, or assassinated or, threw bombs at people or, did all kinds of committed political violence that we have come to frown upon in, as history has unfolded, right? That's what they think of when they think of anarchists. If they think of them at all, they may not even know it. Like I said, most people don't know what the fuck an anarchist is. Most people who are not enmeshed in online political discourse still view it as a binary. There's conservatives and there's liberals. And if you're not a conservative, you're a liberal. And if you're not a liberal, you're a conservative. Or maybe if they have enough nuance in their worldview, they make room in the middle for a moderate. They say, well, maybe some people are moderates. So that's how they view the political spectrum. That's how they define the political spectrum. And I'm not saying that's the best way to define it, but that's just what a lot of people do. And if you think it's worth your time to try and correct them or to try to explain your point of view and why you think the term liberal does not describe you and why you would not like to be called that and you would rather be called an anarchist instead, if you think it's worth your time to do that, then by all means do that. But before you get angry about it, and I understand why you're angry, but before you're angry about it, just remember, like, not everybody knows what all these terms mean. Not everybody is engaged in this conversation as deeply as you are. And I don't know what the situation was with this person you were talking to. Maybe they're without excuse. Maybe they are someone who does know about these various terms and they understand the definitions and they know what an anarchist is and they think you're a liberal for some other reason. Or maybe they were just trying to piss you off and they knew that the worst thing you can ever say to a fucking far leftist is to say that they're a liberal, right? That'll piss you guys off more than almost anything. So maybe they were just trying to fuck with you. I don't know. I sometimes chuckle at like when right wingers will lump everybody together and just sort of use liberal as like the catch-all term for everybody to the left of them, right? Everybody to the left of them is a liberal, no matter whether they're socialist, anarchist, or, classically liberal or, whatever. They're all liberals over there. They're all liberals. If only those right wingers knew that people on the far left hate liberals and hate liberal philosophy and liberal ideology probably almost as much, if not even more, than far right conservatives. Like, it makes me laugh sometimes. Like, you guys have no idea. Like, all those people on the left who you're labeling as liberals, there's some of those that hate being called a liberal just as much as you would, man. Jim Luck Pickert, with the DCEU coming to an end, I'm interested in your thoughts on the future of DC on film. I'm interested in Gunn's Superman film and have enjoyed his previous comic movies, but I'm having a hard time getting very excited for the new DC Connected Universe slate right now. Obviously, we've yet to see what form it will take, and if Legacy is good, I'll probably get excited, but I think I'm just tired of the connected film universe concept. Hell, Marvel is having a hard time replicating its past success, and I'm not crazy about the MCU at the best of times. I adored the Batman, and I'm really looking forward to part 2, but that's its own separate thing. Outside of that, I think I'm feeling burnt out on the current landscape of cape flicks. Hopefully, the focus will be on making each project as good as it can be before any considerations of how it fits into a universe. To be fair, Gunn has expressed a desire to do just that, so that is encouraging. Do you feel any of that burnout as well? I wouldn't call it burnout as much as, like I said when I was answering Kara's question earlier, it's not burnout. It's just that's not where my main interest has ever been. My main interest is always, is the story I'm watching right now good? And everything after that is a secondary concern. The shared universe stuff is a bonus feature to me. That's not the main thing I care about. I care about the story that I'm watching right now. So if the DCU movies are good, then the DCU will be good. I am optimistic about Superman Legacy because it's James Gunn and because I have faith in him as a filmmaker. I have greatly enjoyed his work in the past, especially his superhero work. I thought his 3 Guardians of the Galaxy films are among the best in the MCU. I thought his Suicide Squad movie was fantastic, was one of the best DC movies in recent years. I thought his Peacemaker series was fantastic, was maybe the best thing to be associated with the DCEU that they ever made. I thought it was great. So I have full faith that James Gunn is capable of doing something fantastic with Superman, and I hope he does, and I hope that's a good movie. But we'll see. The movie doesn't exist yet. We'll see. But yeah, and I'm very interested in the Batman Part 2 as well, because I loved the Batman. Now, yes, technically the Batman wasn't part of the DCEU, and it's not going to be part of the DCU going forward, but I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I just want a good movie. If it fits in with the larger universe or it doesn't, I don't care. Just make a good movie. And the same thing with Superman Legacy. If Superman Legacy is a good movie, whether it functions as a good launching point for the DCU or not, I couldn't give less of a shit. I just want a good movie, and as long as they do that, they'll have me, they'll have my support, and they'll have me as a regular viewer, as a ticket buyer or a streaming renter, or however I choose to watch the movies when they come out. I'm there. If I feel like I can depend on your franchise, your studio for good movies, then you've got me, and everything else is a secondary consideration. So, yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about the DCU. Cautiously optimistic and very curious. The saddest of faces, and this is Dana's question, everybody. This is Dana's question. Glynis Johns is gone. It was through Sister Suffragette plus the internet that I learned about Emma Pankhurst. As an actress, she showed how Winifred manages the household, popping off to her rallies, hiding her involvement from her husband, yet also demonstrating her privileged obliviousness to the lower classes, Cook, Ellen, Katie, Nana, but also still managing to come across as an endearing character. She was brilliant, and her performance was and is an absolute delight. It's not like I ever thought I would get to meet her, and she was 100. 100, Steve. Why am I so... Well, crushed goes beyond it, but sad doesn't go far enough. I don't know. Why has this hit so hard? I am sad. Please also discuss Brittany Watts, whose absolutely preposterous, enraging case is currently before a grand jury. I wish things didn't suck so much. Happy Friday, I guess. Yes, I'll help you not be sad by talking about the Brittany Watts case. For everybody who doesn't know, Brittany Watts is the woman in Ohio who is currently on trial for a crime because she had a miscarriage. And that's the long and short of it. Ohio is one of the states that has enacted strict anti-abortion laws in the wake of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And she had a miscarriage. She passed the miscarriage into the toilet, as happens very, very frequently when people have miscarriages. And she was charged with the crime of, I think it was mutilating a corpse or doing something to a corpse. Let me look up I have the story open here. She was charged with felony abuse of a corpse. That's what she's been charged with. She had a miscarriage, and she's charged with felony abuse of a corpse because we no longer have a statutory guarantee for the right to abortion. So states are now allowed to enact utterly ridiculous, inhumane laws to restrict abortion. And this is one of the consequences of those laws, that a woman can have a miscarriage and then be charged as a criminal because of it. So it's fucking ridiculous. And it only makes sense if you don't view people who get pregnant as human beings. Because if you view Brittany Watts as a human being with the same equal rights that every other human being ought to have in this country, then it makes absolutely no sense to charge her with a crime for having a miscarriage. Something that she could have done nothing to prevent. Something that was completely out of her hands. Miscarriages are just one of those things, unfortunately, that happen. And no one is at fault. It just happened. But now she's on trial. Or at least she might be on trial. It's going before a grand jury, so she hasn't actually been indicted yet, I suppose. But I should probably look at the story I have. Now faces a criminal charge. So she hasn't actually, I don't think she's actually been indicted. The case is pending before the grand jury. So she hasn't actually been indicted, but who knows? Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But as for your first part of the question about the death of Glynis Johns, why are you sad? Because her work meant something to you. I mean, it's sad, but it's also it's sad in a good way, because it meant that she touched you, that her work touched you and changed you and mattered to you. And what artist wouldn't love that? Think about that. She got to spend her life with the knowledge, the memory that something she did. And she like you said, she just died. She lived to be 100. So that was what, 60 years ago she made that movie? So she got to spend more than half her life hearing people like you tell her what her character in that movie meant to them, and how it changed them, and how it helped them, and how it enlightened them, and how it meant something to them. Every artist, regardless of what medium you work in, whether you're a visual artist or a performer or a writer or a director or filmmaker, whatever you do, like a comic book artist, it doesn't matter. Whatever, if you make art, whatever you do, when someone says, hey, that thing you did, it meant something to me. I still remember that. It changed my life. It gave me something to think about. It put me on the path that I'm on now. Like everybody wants to hear that. And you have that for Glynis Johns. I mean, she never knew it, but it was still something that happened. It's still true. She made a difference in your life. Her work made a difference in your life. And that's a beautiful thing. And that's why you're sad that she's gone, even though you never knew her and were never going to know her. That's why you're sad, because it meant something, because you had a connection to her through her work. And it's sad that she's gone, but it's beautiful that while she was here, she did something that mattered to you. Russell, good afternoon, Steve. I hope you are well. So this may be a weird question, but I've never had this experience before with fellow Trek fans. So spoilers on Cisco, by the way. Anyways, I joined many forums on Trek-related material. As stated before, this forum was about why Janeway was right and why Cisco was in the wrong. I shook my head at this. I know we have talked before about Tuvix, but this person was like, Janeway did her duty by protecting her 2 crew members. And I was like, Starfleet is all about exploration and to seek out new life. Janeway's choice was wrong. Anyways, below that was a comment that read, Tuvix was unnatural and unholy. I was like, WTF. I want to post your Why Conservatives Like Trek video as a response, but did not out of respect to you. In the future, if I come across such material, can I insert some of your videos of wisdom? Also, how would you have responded to this? Thank you, Steve. As always, love your channel, most of your politics. You can always share my videos. You don't have to ask permission. You can always share my videos. Sharing my videos gets more people to watch them. That's good for me. So yes, please feel free to share my video in that forum or anywhere else you feel like it might be relevant to the conversation. But I mean, thank you for asking, but you don't need to ask. You can share. I mean, it's not really a fair question to ask me. How would I have responded? I wouldn't have responded. I don't engage people like that. I think that's a waste of time. If somebody was, I mean, I don't usually get involved in fan arguments anyway, especially on the internet. Like it just doesn't interest me. I just don't care. Like if I'm having a discussion with like a friend of mine, like if Dana and I were talking about it, or Jason and I were talking about it, or some other friend of mine that like I knew we were both fans of the same thing, but we had a differing opinion about something and we could have a discussion about it and have like a fun nerd argument about it. Like that can be fun. But just arguing with random people on the internet about like whether or not Janeway should have killed Tuvix, I don't give a fuck. What the fuck do I care? I mean, I made a video about it. I said my piece. I explained what I think about it. I tried to focus more on like critiquing and analyzing the episode and the implications of the choice. You know what I mean? Like as opposed to, well, Janeway was wrong because of this, you know what I mean? Like I always try to do an essay as opposed to just make some kind of a like pedantic nerd argument. But when it comes down to it, am I really invested in whether or not Janeway was right or wrong in splitting Tuvix back into Tuvok and Neelix? No, I don't give a shit. But the unholy thing, the Tuvix was unnatural and unholy, that to me is a sign that even beyond my pre-existing apathy toward having those kinds of arguments with strangers, that would seal the deal for me. When someone brings that into it and says, "Oh, Tuvix was unnatural," okay, have fun doing whatever the fuck you're doing over there. I'm not going to be involved in it. Life's too short. That's how I would have responded. I would have not responded. But like I said, it's not really a fair question. I'm sorry that I can't give you a more helpful answer. But from my perspective, like you lost me when you said I joined a bunch of Star Trek forums. That's just something I wouldn't ever do. I don't give a shit. I'm not remotely interested in arguing about Star Trek with people on the internet. That's why I make videos, so I can state my piece and then I move on to the next thing. I don't, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I have my thoughts to offer. I hope they're entertaining to people. I hope they're of use to people. If somebody says, actually, I have this really long and well thought out and well reasoned refutation to what you said in your video about Tuvix, well, that's nice. I'm never going to read it. I don't care. So maybe somebody else who is more involved in that area of the fandom, someone else who goes more for the arguing with people on the internet thing, would be more helpful to you and give you better advice. Cause it's not my thing. It's not my thing. And the last question, the one that came in right before the buzzer, from Matt L. In the 4 to 5 years since the movie Joker came out, I still remember this quote, which I don't believe is ever spoken, but is in his joke book. The worst part of having a mental illness is that people expect you to behave as if you don't. That really resonates with me. I have autism, or am on the spectrum as it's commonly termed. I sometimes misread or misunderstand body or vocal cues, and I also have ADHD. I try to plan things out and budget time, but can get distracted and tasks can end up delayed or unfinished. Overall, people don't really seem to understand what these conditions mean. Either they act surprised when I'm different than normal, or they treat me as if I had severe defects and am unable to do anything or make any decisions, etc. myself. In what ways do you think movies and shows could improve the portrayal of people with mental health issues? And do you think movies such as Joker or Harley Quinn help or harm how these people are viewed in society? I mean, I think movies like Joker can help in the sense that, like, we are invited to sympathize with Arthur in Joker, but that sympathy only goes so far because ultimately he turns into a murderer. So you can't sympathize with him all the way, but you can sympathize with him up to a point, and you can view him as a human being, like a human being who ultimately goes way off course, but a human being, right? So I think that's positive, even though I think there are also some negative things in the movie as far as depicting a person with mental health issues. And I think the broader problem is that people with a mental illness who become murderers is just a really, really common thing throughout media. And while Joker may be better in some ways than other things, it still is a part of that. It still is perpetuating that theme, which is like that concept, that trope, that type is way overrepresented. Because we know from reality that most mentally ill people are not prone to violence and do not become serial killers. They are more likely to be victims of violence than to be perpetrators of it. But as for, like, what do I think movies and shows could do to improve the portrayal? Just show them as people. Show them as human beings. Do a show with an autistic character who is not a caricature, who is not Rain Man, who is not, what was that, the fucking medical drama with Freddie Highmore, the doctor or the surgeon, or I'm not sure what it was. I'm not sure what it was called. The Good Doctor. I never watched a single episode of it, but I've seen people share clips of it on Twitter and such, and I've watched some of it and thought, is this an actual show that they're making now? Like, this isn't like something from the 70s. Like, this is a real show that they're making right now. Because it seems almost like it's like a cartoon of an autistic person. And again, I don't mean to suggest that there aren't real people whose autism expresses itself in ways that may be similar to how Freddie Highmore's character is on that show. But it's always the people who stand out, whose autism or whatever their particular condition is causes them to behave in a way that is quote unquote abnormal, right? They're the ones that get all the attention. They're the ones that get to be characters in movies. And people who are dealing with a mental illness, but in a way that isn't immediately apparent or only becomes apparent in certain situations, they usually aren't in movies or TV shows. They aren't represented. And I think it would be good to have characters like that represented in ways that present them as human beings, not as cartoons, not as caricatures, just as people who are part of our community, who are part of the tapestry of humanity. And there's nothing wrong with them. And there's nothing that they necessarily need to fix about themselves or could fix about themselves if they did need to fix it. It's part of the human experience. I think that would help a lot in humanizing and improving the raising awareness about people with a broad variety of types of mental illness. You said you're on the spectrum, you have ADHD. I mean, so do a lot of people. But they're underrepresented. And that contributes to the problem you're describing, where when people find out that you have a certain diagnosis, they treat you differently, or they're puzzled by it, or they're maybe a little scared by it, or they overreact to it because we're conditioned to ignore it. Like in actual society, we're conditioned to ignore it because it makes us uncomfortable. Those of us who don't have those diagnoses, it makes us uncomfortable. We don't like to deal with it. We don't like to think about it. And that's why people like you who have ADHD, who have autism, you're conditioned to hide it, to act like you don't have it. Just like Arthur says in his journal, that line that has stayed with you. The hardest part is people expect you to act like you don't have it. We expect you to act like that because it makes us uncomfortable. And we prioritize our comfort. And we shouldn't. And it's wrong. And it's something society needs to change. And maybe improved portrayal of people with mental health issues in mass media would help that. I would very much like to see that. Well, that is the last question. Thank you all for sending in questions, all of my patrons and members. Thank you all for your continuing support. I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to turn to the live chat for the last portion of the show. But before I do that, I've got a brand new Stuffy and Friends short to share with you. As I mentioned at the beginning or earlier in the episode when I was responding to a question, this will go up as a standalone short on my channel tomorrow, but you get to see the whole thing in full frame tonight, right now, just because you are joining me for the live stream. So please enjoy a brand new Stuffy and Friends short.
Your turn.
History.
Okay, history. Who was the American scientist erroneously credited with inventing peanut butter?
Booker T. Washington.
George Washington Carver.
Damn it! I always get those two mixed up. Is that racist?
Maybe a little.
How much? Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how racist is it?
I don't know. 4?
4 out of 10? Jesus. That doesn't sound good. What about on a scale of 1 to 5?
Then it would be 2.
2 out of 5? I can live with that. And there we have it. A brand new Stuffy short. Thank you all for enjoying the Stuffy short. And by the way, that one, the one you just watched, will not be part of the omnibus that I'm making, because the omnibus will just be shorts that were released in 2023 and 2022. So that one that you just watched will be the first one in next year's Stuffy Shorts omnibus, because I do intend to keep doing the Stuffy shorts as a regular thing. So anyway, let me turn to the... I'm glad you all like that one. I enjoy that one too. That's one of my favorite ones of the ones that I've done recently. I think it's a good gag. It's a good gag. Let me turn to the chat and see what some questions people have are. John Collins says 2 questions. Would you consider producing a video about when the Dems say the quiet parts loud, as you did with the Republicans, which I enjoyed? And do you care if the NFL is rigged? Does it matter? I am not going to do a video like that about the Dems, because I feel like that would be counterproductive, because it's an election year and I want the Democrats to win the election. So I am not going to be going out of my way to point out their flaws, unless I can do it in a way that I feel is productive. So no plans to do that at the moment. I do think it's important to hold the Dems accountable and to continue to try to drag them to the left. But the first priority for me this year is to pull them across the finish line. So I will drag them across the finish line, and then I will resume trying to drag them further to the left. But no, I'm not going to be making fun of Democrats this year. I'm going to be making fun of Republicans. And, like I said, if I can think of ways of doing it, of being critical of the Democrats in ways that I don't think would contribute to them performing poorly in the election, then I will absolutely do that, because I think that's important. But my focus will be on making fun of the Republicans and continuing to do those if Republicans said the quiet parts loud videos. I have no plans to do any if the Democrats said the quiet parts loud videos. And do I care if the NFL is rigged? Does it matter? I mean, I think it matters in a broad sense. Like if the most popular sport in our country is not actually a legitimate sport, then I do think that matters as a general social issue. But do I personally care? No, I personally do not care. I wouldn't care if every NFL football stadium in the country suddenly sank into the ground and was buried and was seen no more. I would not give a shit. I don't like NFL football. I don't like the NFL. I don't like football as a sport. If it disappeared tomorrow, not only would I not miss it, I would count that as an incredibly positive thing for the human race. So no, I don't personally care. But if the most popular and successful sports league in the country and perhaps the world was found to have been defrauding its fans in a massive way, yes, that matters. But it doesn't really matter to me personally. Jason's here. Hi, Jason. Air One Fire says, what's it like to be roommates with Stuffy? It's great. He's usually very quiet. Steve Schmeling says, in regard to Tuvix, transporter accidents are a pathway to things Janeway considers to be unnatural. Okay. Isaiah, that is, yes, they did use multiple camera angles to shoot the exploding Enterprise. Yes, because they only, I guess they could have done that multiple times, but it would have been expensive. So they shot the same explosion from multiple angles so they could show it from multiple angles in the episode. Yes, so thank you for pointing that out. Yes, that is true. They did shoot the exploding ship from multiple angles with multiple cameras at once. But for the actual scenes in the episode, it was a one camera deal. 255 AD says, think the Project 2025 stuff will happen if Trump wins. I've seen some vids saying if he'll implement all of it with SCOTUS's rubber stamp, seem kind of worst case scenario. Yeah, it's worst case scenario, but I don't think that means we should assume that he wouldn't do it. I think that's one of the reasons why I think it's incredibly important for the Democrats to win the election. Because, I see some random geek in the chat says Biden is pro-genocide. Trump isn't. Look, I'm not defending Biden's position on Israel and Hamas. I think it's atrocious. I'm not going to carry water for him on that at all. But would Trump as president make that situation any better? No? Then vote for Joe Biden. It's as simple as that. It's not about saying, well, Biden actually, his position toward Israel and the Palestinians actually got, it's more reasonable than people give it credit for. No, fuck that. I'm not saying that. Fuck that. Fuck that. And fuck anybody who supports what Israel is doing to the Palestinians in Gaza now. It's completely over the line. It's completely inexcusable. And it's a stain on Biden and his presidency that he's continuing to support it. Even if he is, people say he's trying to nudge them behind the scenes to, he needs to start nudging fucking a lot harder, right? That's not the issue when it comes to the election. When it comes to the election, the issue is that situation is going to suck no matter who wins. It's going to be worse if Trump wins. So vote for Joe Biden. Like, this isn't fucking difficult. It's difficult when we look at it apart from the election, when we start to look at it in terms of, like, you know, what is our role? What is our complicity in this? What should we be doing as a country to stop what is happening in Gaza? Yeah, that gets really messy and really complicated, and we can, you know, throw shit at Joe Biden all day for that, and he deserves it. But when it comes to the election, it's fucking easy. Is it going to be better with Trump as president? No, it's not. Vote for Joe Biden. Wireless Mike says, do I have a plan for if Blump or some other Republican wins the election? No, I won't. I can't afford to leave the country. Like, that would be the only plan. What else could I do? I could move somewhere else. I don't have the money. I can't afford it. So I don't have a plan. My plan is to hope for the best. Donald Betger says, did your love of Star Trek contribute to the development of your progressive attitudes? Yes. Yes, it did. Absolutely. A lot of the TV shows I watched as a kid contributed to my progressive attitudes. Another one was MacGyver. MacGyver, for as goofy as it is, and it's insanely goofy, MacGyver was a very, very progressive show, was an unapologetically progressive show. And that had an effect on me, as did Star Trek, for sure. Steve Schmeling, no retro review yesterday. I'm not done with them. I'm taking a 2-week break. So there was no retro review this week. There will be no retro review next week, but the week after that, I will be doing them once again as a weekly thing. I'm just taking a little break from them. Geek says, should Palestinian Americans vote for Biden in the election? They are saying we'll remember in November. Look, far be it for me to tell any marginalized group what to do with their vote, but I mean, I would say the same thing to them as I said just a second ago. Is it going to be any better with Trump as president? Is it? I mean, I understand. Look, I mean, it goes beyond holding your nose. Like, if you are a Palestinian who is an American citizen and you see what's happening to your family, to your people in Gaza, and you see Joe Biden just supporting the guys that are doing it, supporting the guys that are inflicting that misery on your people, I understand not wanting to vote for him. I completely understand not wanting to vote for him. I get it. You have a better reason than anybody for not wanting to vote for him. Is it going to be better with Trump as president? Is it going to be better with Trump as president? Or is it going to be way, way worse? Like, because there's two options. There's two options. Either Joe Biden's going to be the president or Donald Trump is going to be the president on November 6th. So who's it going to be? Who are you going to vote for? Dana, I have nothing planned for the last day of Christmas. Don Ranger Power. Hello, Steve and all. Happy 2024. Hope everyone is well despite the passing of David Soul, who portrayed Kenneth Hutchinson in Starsky and Hutch. Oh, that's a shame. I hadn't heard that. That's too bad. Air One Fire. I think you said you intend to review every classic Star Trek episode. Does that mean 12 plus years of weekly reviews? Well, in theory, yeah. In theory. Okay, Dana, whatever the day is, November, when is it November 8th? When's election day this year? I thought it was November 6th. I better figure that out before the actual election. Election day is... Yeah, it's November 5th. It's the first Tuesday in November, right? Or is it? Yeah, it's the first Tuesday in November. So election day is November 5th. So November 6th, hopefully we'll know who the president is. But anyway, well, yeah, okay, I see what you mean. He'll still be president because he won't be the inauguration. Ha, ha, ha. Very funny. God, you're gonna choke me with these details. You're gonna choke me. Yeah, he'll still be president no matter what the day after the election because the inauguration isn't until January. Okay, I get it. Jesus fucking Christ. Can you meet me halfway? Can you meet me halfway? And now you're yelling at me. You're yelling at me. You pedants. You insufferable pedants. You know what I meant. Anyway, Jason says, I knew something was off when I noticed the mess on your baseball cap. This is my new hat, by the way. You like it? It's my Maryland hat. I wore it in an earlier video. The one where I was, the video I did about how Delaware was stolen from Maryland a couple months ago. Remember I did that video? I wore this hat in that, and I've decided I'm gonna wear it as my regular hat, at least for a few months. I have a hat for the new Hagerstown baseball team, because the Suns are no more. I used to wear a Hagerstown Suns cap. But the Suns, alas, are no more. But we're getting a new team. There will be a new Hagerstown baseball team playing in a brand new ballpark that they're building right now in downtown Hagerstown. And they are, and Jason knows this because we've talked about it, but they're going to be the Hagerstown Flying Boxcars, which is a reference both to Hagerstown's history as a railroad hub and also as a center for aerospace manufacturing back in the day, because the Flying Boxcar was the name of an airplane. So there will be the Hagerstown Flying Boxcars, and I have a Flying Boxcars hat that I will probably start wearing as my regular hat when the season starts. That is my rough intention. So, but for the next few months, it'll probably be the Maryland hat most of the time, and which is cool because it's the Maryland flag. See, it's a circular version of the Maryland flag, which is not only the best U.S. state flag, but the best flag. Period. The best flag. And if Jason disagrees with that, he can go fuck himself. Yes, okay, I see, Dana. You can meet me halfway. Stephen Clinard with the super chat. I don't see no apex predator on that hat. Why would I wear a Randy Orton hat? I mean, I like Randy Orton. Don't get me wrong. He's never been like my guy. Never enough to want to wear like a Randy Orton hat. But I mean, all due respect to him. He's been around for a long time and he is WWE's apex predator. Yes, Dr. Agnostic, scolding jackals. Exactly. Now I know what Seth Meyers goes through. It's terrible. It's terrible. Oh, David Colby. Now that is a beautiful possibility. Trump wins the primary, then dies from his hideous health and awful diet on camera while giving his election speech. God, I would love for that to happen. Daryl, that's a really interesting question. Would Kamala Harris be better than Biden on the Israel-Palestine question? I honestly don't know. Because as long as she's the VP on the ticket, yes, Isaiah, the Fairchild Flying Boxcar, exactly. As long as Harris is the VP on the ticket, she's going to toe the line behind Biden. If she personally feels differently and feels like we should be doing something differently regarding Israel-Palestine than Biden is doing, I don't know. I have no idea. So I don't know. Maybe she would, but I honestly don't know. Brian Baker says, have you considered doing a ranking of your best Trek episodes from each series and from all series? Yes, I have. I don't think I've done it yet. I've done videos like that. Like I did the best episodes of the current Trek shows last year, where I took my favorite episodes from Disco and Strange New Worlds. and ranked them. You know, I think it was mostly Disco and Strange New Worlds and a couple of short treks in there. Oh, and Prodigy. There was a Prodigy episode in there too. Prodigy is fantastic. Um, so yeah, I've thought about it. Maybe if you know some week when I want to do a Star Trek video, but I'm not really and I don't have like a you know a big topic coming up. Like it's not one of the official Trek Actually ones that people voted on. But I want to do a not actually Trek Actually. I could do a video ranking like my favorite or my top 5 episodes from classic Trek and animated series and TNG and blah blah blah. Yeah, I've thought about it. No specific plans to do it at any particular time, but I'm sure I'll do it at some point. Sure. David Colby with Super Chat. The best flag is California's. Changed my mind. I mean, it does have a bear on it, so I'll give it that. But on the other hand, this is the best flag. So, like, this is not the California flag. This is the Maryland flag, and this is the best flag. So therefore, California cannot have the best flag. I don't know if that'll change your mind or not, but that's the argument. Do I 255 do I think the entire 2025 project will happen if Trump is? I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them to try. Right? I wouldn't put it past them to try. Yeah, Jason, the flying boxcars logo is confusing. It has a weird gray man riding an airplane. Yeah, I'm not sure what the history is behind it. The Maryland Steven says the Maryland flag is unbearable. That is brilliant because it expresses a frankly shocking and unacceptable animus toward the best flag, but also unbearable. It's a pun. I love it. Opinionville says first he yells at Dana, then he yells at me in public. Boy, it sure is us being great, being a close friend. You know, it's out of love. You know, it's out of love. It's yeah. It's because I care. It's because I care, and the fact that I care means that I expect better from both of you, and I expect you both to acknowledge the best flag. Thank you, Matthew. Maryland has the best flag. You're goddamn right it does. You're goddamn right it does. David Colby says, I just can't see that flag standing up to the hordes of Caesar's legion in the last stand against barbarity in the American Southwest. Me neither, but who gives a shit? Steve Schmeling says, loved your 12 days vid. I like that we all believe the true love in that song is unhinged. Yeah, it's way too many gifts, right? It's way too many gifts. And way too many birds. Like I saw someone in the comments said, well, I mean, if you interpret the song in a certain way, because if you add up all of the gifts from all of the days, the total number of items that are bestowed throughout the song is 364, which is one a day for every day of the year except for Christmas, right? So, and apparently, I'm not familiar with this, and I didn't look any further into it, but apparently there's an argument to be made that despite the more popular interpretations of the lyrics of the song, in fact, all of the gifts on all 12 days are birds. And looked at from that perspective and factoring in the true love as the giver of the gifts, the song is the true love's way of saying, like, to his true love, I can take care of you. You know, like, I'm a good match. I would be a good husband because I can take care of you. And here's proof. I can feed you every single day of the year because I'm giving you a bird that we can eat every single day of the year, which is nice. But do you need to give them to me all in the space of 12 days? Can you maybe just get one a day for when we're going to eat it? And are there going to be no leftovers? Like, we're going to eat a brand new bird every single day for an entire, like, you didn't think this through, dude. You didn't think this through. Did you think about where I'm going to keep all these fucking birds? No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And who eats turtle doves? David Colby says, anyway, don't worry if you ever thought I was an unreasonable, whining jackass about Strange New Worlds. Amazon is bringing out a Fallout TV show. I like Star Trek, but I love Fallout. I look forward to not paying attention to any of that because I have never played Fallout and I couldn't give less of a shit about it. But I hope it's a good show for your sake. Because, yeah, if it's bad, you will be absolutely insufferable. CMAG says, not a Marylander, but I'll say the Maryland flag is lovely with its old world charm. There are some hard state. Thank you, CMAG. See that? And that's someone from Pennsylvania showing up for the Maryland flag. I let it speak for itself. That's all. I just let it speak for itself. Yeah, see, I didn't know that until people commented to that effect on my video. Because, I mean, the way Jack feels about the song in the video, that is very much my own feeling. I do not like that song. I don't like singing it. I don't like hearing it. I don't like that song. So it was a great pleasure to make that video and have Jack just tear it up. So I have never really studied it. It was news to me that all 12 days are supposed to be birds, but apparently that's one very popular interpretation. So I don't know. Brian Baker says, thoughts on MTG being denied her hotel for her meeting with insurrectionists. A sic semper tyrannis, motherfucker. That's what I think. That's my thoughts on it. Sic semper tyrannis. How's that taste? Steve Schmeling says, I also liked your pettiness vid. I too hold a couple of grudges against a couple of elementary school teachers. On a related note, that grudge extends to the song Susie Snowflake. Wow. Yeah, a lot of people took that video too seriously. A lot of people were like, oh, that's so sad that people would hold grudges. Like, what I said in the video, I meant. Like, I do kind of admire people who are capable of holding a petty grudge for an incredibly long time. There's a tenacity about it that I kind of admire, right? But it's sort of a cockeyed admiration. Like, I'm not recommending it to people. But there are a couple of comments in the video that took it way too seriously. They're like, oh, that's terrible. I'm not like that at all. I think it's awful that you're saying this is a good thing. Okay, well, have a nice life. Have fun. Have fun going through life like that. Don Ranger Power says, speaking of Star Trek, I'm more hyped about season 2 of Prodigy on Netflix than the final season of Discovery on Paramount Plus. I think I'm probably equally hyped for both. I'm a fan of Discovery for all of its flaws, for all of its many problems and sources of frustration as a show. Overall, I'm a fan of the show, and I'm looking forward to the final season, and I'm looking forward to the second season of Prodigy too. Because Prodigy is a fantastic show. David Colby, you know what? You're wrong about Strange New Worlds. You can be wrong about the Maryland flag too. It doesn't change the fact. And the fact is, that's the best flag. 255 AD, Jesus Christ. Please read my last comment before bed. God, I've answered this question already, dude. Do I think it's likely? I don't know. I think it's likely that they'll try. I don't know if it's likely if they'll succeed or not, but I don't know. It's likely that they'll try. I don't know if it's likely that they'll succeed. That's the best answer I can give you. Opinionville says Maryland's flag looks like carpet from a low-end casino. Atlantic City. It looks like the pattern found on a Midwesterner's good tie. All right, I'm just going to remove Opinionville from the chat. No, I'm not going to do that. I would never do that to my best friend. I would really think about it hard, but I wouldn't actually do it. See, that's funny. Maryland's flag looks like a Harlequin exploded. That's a good joke. It's completely wrong, and I find it deeply offensive as a Marylander who has a great love for my flag because it is the best flag. But that's good. That's good. I like that. I like that a lot. Harlequin that exploded. Steve Schmelly says, I wear my petty grudges with pride. because of one Susie Snowflake brings my piss to a low boil. That's good. That's right, Matthew. Yep, that's it. Yep. The flying box car. Yeah, Fairchild Aerospace used to be a major thing in Hagerstown. Not anymore, but Hagerstown used to be the home of Fairchild, and there's a Fairchild museum in the area. And yeah, that's why the flying box cars are going to be called the flying box cars. John Collins says, Steve, I've never thought of being told the phrase "go fuck yourself" as a negative towards myself. I mean, think about it. Self-comfort. That doesn't bother anyone else. I know it's one of those weird phrases where like the intended meaning is the opposite of the literal meaning. Like, you say to someone, "Go fuck yourself," you mean it in like a negative way. You're insulting them. You're attacking them. Go fuck yourself. But like, it's not a bad thing. Like, it's a very pleasurable experience if you do it right. I guess maybe the idea is it's a really harsh way of telling someone to leave you alone, because it's not implied, like, because you say it in such a nasty way, the implication isn't like, fuck yourself here in front of me. I don't want to watch you. Go fuck yourself. Go somewhere else and fuck yourself, because I have no more use for your company. I think that's kind of the explanation for it. But yes, superficially, it's like, it's like calling someone a cocksucker. Like, well, I mean, are they good at it? Like, that's not a bad thing, right? Some random geek says, I think we can all agree the Washington state flag. So I'm going to refresh my memory on that. I'm not sure what the Washington flag looks like off the top of my head. Washington state flag. Oh, God, it's just George Washington's big old head. It's just a green flag with a seal, which is just a gold ring that says the seal of the state of Washington. And then it's George Washington's big old head. Yeah, that's not a good flag. That's not a good flag. No, I mean, even if you don't have like a negative feeling toward Washington, because like modern opinions of Washington are at best, complicated by the fact that he was a huge slave owner, kind of hard to do hero worship when you have that. But even if you leave that aside, like, it's just a badly designed flag. It's a solid color background and a dude's big old head in the middle of it. What the fuck is that? It's almost as bad as, in fact, actually, it may be worse. It may be worse than the Washington County flag, because even though my state flag is the best flag, my county flag is absolute garbage. And one of the main reasons why it's such fucking garbage is it also has a big old George Washington head in it. What the fuck? What is it with jurisdictions named after Washington just phoning it in on the flag and say, I just put George Washington's head on it. Fuck it. Like, is there no creativity? Heavy D says, will you be doing any more videos playing the roles of certain careers, like the lawyer you produced, a Starship interior decorator, troubadour, ship-to-ship autonomous vacuum sales? Yes, actually, I'm shooting one tomorrow. I'm not going to say what job it will be. It's none of the ones you mentioned, but yes, I am doing another Starfleet jobs thing. Yes, I'm shooting it tomorrow. It'll be out next week. 25580. Wait, they didn't want me to do it in front of him? Yeah, I know, right? Now that's the last clue, and it all falls into place. Brian Bigger says, what did I think of Hannibal on NBC? I never watched it, so I can't tell you. Steve Schmeling says, I prefer to say, tarry forth and fornicate with thine own self. That's the classy way. Steve also says, what did I think of Cheers? I was never a huge fan of Cheers, to be honest. Now, in fairness, I didn't watch it regularly. I was not like a devoted viewer of it. But the few times I did watch it, it almost never made me laugh. I wasn't a fan of it. I was a huge fan of Frasier, however. the spinoff, which is, I guess, somewhat unusual. I mean, I think the styles of humor were a little different, but I was never a huge fan of Cheers, but I was a massive fan of Frasier. Um, I love how obsessed I love how obsessed Jason is with the box cars. Okay, no, here's the. I'll show you the hat. I'll show you the hat because you're right. The official team hat is not acceptable to me, but I will show you the hat. Okay, so here's the flying boxcars hat that I will be wearing at some point. Oh, on Pretender 6, what's my take on the Stargate shows? I've only ever watched the first episode of the original Stargate. Um, I liked it, but I just never got into it. I'll probably watch. I'm sure I'll get into it at some point. I mean, Richard Dean Anderson is in it. I'm sure I'll watch it at some point, but I've never watched it, so I can't really say. So this is the boxcars hat that I will be wearing. Okay, so it is not, as you can see, an official hat. It is a patch with a circular version of the boxcars logo that I have affixed to a black fitted hat. That is my flying boxcars hat. See, so I think it looks pretty good on me, right? But so it is because I looked at the official hats that they have available to purchase on the team website, and yeah, none of them are really for me. You know, not my colors, not my style. I like a dark colored hat, preferably a black one, and I kind of dig the circular logo in the middle. So I made this one myself. So this is the flying boxcars hat that I will be wearing when I transition from the Maryland hat. No, not a self-sealing stem bolt salesman. um, Oh, CMAC, this is interesting. Your joke from Pee Wee on late seating is accurate in my experience. As Pee Wee did, you can shout, "The stars at night are big and bright," and people will respond. Weirdest wedding I was ever at. And honestly, if that is, I believe you. So assuming that that is true, that is now my favorite part of Texas. Like that's really the only good thing about Texas I can think of all the time. Oh, if you if you yell that out, you will always get a response to that call and response. Okay, a couple more questions, and then I'm going to wrap this up. I saw one. Wireless Mike 73 says, which of the J.J. Abrams Trek movies was my favorite and why? Star Trek Beyond. I liked all three of them. I know that is a somewhat controversial opinion to have in Star Trek fandom because those films are divisive. I liked all three of them, but my favorite was the last one. Or I'll be optimistic and say the most recent one. I loved Star Trek Beyond. It felt like a classic Star Trek movie. It showcased the ensemble cast very well. It separated Kirk from Spock and McCoy. So his story felt fresh. It didn't feel like a rehash of anything. The Spock and McCoy stuff, pairing them together for a lot of the movie, I thought was great. The structure of the plot where the little gadget that he has with the tiny people at the beginning, pays off and becomes like a MacGuffin later on. I thought that was well done. And yeah, it made a really good use of the cast. It was a really great sci-fi adventure story. It was not a retread of a previous Star Trek episode or movie. It was an original story, and I thought it was terrific. I really, really thought it was terrific. So I'm hoping they get to make another one, and I'm hoping it's as good as it's as good as that one. And there was another one I saw that I wanted to answer. Yannick Muller said, can you talk a little bit about your routines working from home? I often struggle with making progress on my PhD project since it doesn't have a strict deadline. So, well, part of the way I work is I do have deadlines. Now, it's not the end of the world if I miss one, but I have a routine that is very strongly set that I stick to. So for all intents and purposes, and the way I work, I do have deadlines. I put out a video every Monday and every Wednesday and every Thursday when I'm doing the Star Trek retro reviews, and I have a live stream every Wednesday and a live stream every other Friday. Like that's a set routine. That's my release schedule. So my production schedule serves that release schedule. So I wake up during the week, Monday through Friday. I wake up every day at 5 a.m. I exercise. I drink some coffee. I watch a little bit of TV to kind of wake up and, sort of ease into the day. And then usually by 8 o'clock, I'm in front of the computer and I'm writing. And I write most of the week, Monday through Friday. And then what I write during the week, I then shoot on Saturday. And then Saturday afternoon and evening, after the shooting is done, I start editing the video for Monday. And I either finish the edit for the Monday video Saturday night, or I finish it Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. So it can be ready to be released on Monday morning. And every other Sunday afternoon, Jason and Dana and I get together on Zoom and record our podcasts. So that's a part of the routine as well that I need to factor in and make sure there's plenty of time for that. So usually on podcast days, Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening are free, and I don't really do any video work, which is why it's important to get a good start on it on Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening. And then between Monday and Wednesday, usually I like to have the Wednesday video done by Monday night, or at the very latest done by Tuesday afternoon. So there's plenty of time to get it up for Wednesday. And then I start, and then I'm writing for the following week, so it's write, edit, it's write, shoot, edit, write, shoot, edit, boom, 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 just as a rolling thing. And that's the schedule, and I stick to it very closely, and it has served me quite well and has allowed me to, to maintain a steady, regular output of stuff. Opinion. Yes, Jason. Opinionville says routine is my middle name. It is, and it is. It's French. Routon. Routine. Whatever they pronounce it like in France. I don't fucking know. I don't speak fucking French. Routine. Routin. Routon. Whatever the fuck they say over there. Or actually, whatever the Académie Française tells them to say, because they're under the thumb of the French Academy. They talk the way they're told to talk. They speak the way they're told to speak, don't they? The French. Ha! 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 I apologize. I know I have French viewers, and I value you, and I value your viewership and your support, and I love you. And if anything I said just now has been, I would say, misconstrued as disrespectful to you or to your culture or to your proud nation with its wonderful history, I apologize. I deeply apologize, and I humbly apologize, and I apologize. So anyway, I'm yeah, yes, please, Geek, ask Leto how I pronounce routine. I would love to get an expert opinion. Leto has left the chat. She's like, fuck this. I'm out of here. Don't tell her I made fun of her voice. Don't. I love her. She's great. Don't tell her I did a French accent. Please. Nobody tell her that. Nobody show her this. Anyway, that's it. I'm done. I'm ending the show. Geek posted the links in the chat earlier. Thank you for that, Geek. And don't forget, charitylinks.page in the description to help out some friends of ours who need a helping hand. That is maintained by some random geek as well. Also, don't forget patreon.com/Steve Shives, or clicking the join button to become a channel member to support this channel. If you enjoy my videos, if the work I do on this channel is of use to you, or you find it entertaining or interesting or whatever, and you can afford a few bucks a month, please consider supporting this channel by giving me those few bucks a month. Give it to me through Patreon or the join button and becoming a member. And if you do become a member or become a patron, one of the benefits is you can submit questions ahead of time that I answer in the first part of these live streams. So thank you very much to all my patrons and all my channel members for the support. I could not keep doing this without you. I am eternally grateful that you consider my humble work here on YouTube worthy of your support. Also, don't forget that in addition to YouTube, I mentioned him a second ago, I am on a couple of awesome podcasts that are a part of the Let Me Listen family of podcasts. Yes, Stephen, that was a French accent. I'm not Rich Little, okay? I'm not good at certain things. Let Me Listen podcast. I'm on the Late Seating podcast alongside the wonderful, brilliant, talented, who I would never, ever, ever yell at, ever, for any reason, Jason Harding. It is a movie review show where Jason and I take a look at classic films and give them a fresh watch and see if they deserve whatever reputation they have, good or bad. Our new episode goes up this week. It is our review of The Godfather Part 2. Good movie and a good podcast we made about it too. So check that out. Also, in addition to Late Seating, Jason and myself and Dana, who is also with us in the chat, do a Star Trek themed improv comedy podcast called The Ensign's Log that we are recording a new episode of this weekend. Should be lots of fun. We were going to do it last weekend, but we couldn't because Dana was not available. Usually when we're unable to record The Ensign's Log on schedule, it is Dana's fault. I don't hold that against her, but I do wish that to be stated for the record. And yeah, okay, yeah, the new Late Seating is up already. So there you go. Listen to our review of The Godfather Part 2. Do it right now. Because I'm ending this show. You're going to need something to do. So just listen to it right now. And look for our new episode of The Ensign's Log, which will be out next week. So, and if you enjoy Star Trek stuff, if you enjoy funny Star Trek stuff, comedic Star Trek stuff, and you haven't listened to The Ensign's Log, I highly recommend it. I think you'll really dig it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. And I will see you all around. Happy New Year. Thanks for being here. Bye, everybody. Best state flag. Best flag. Period. End of discussion. End of show. I win.